off season and possibly playing or just doing individual workouts?
Yeah, I mean, probably take a little bit of a break here, just for maybe a week. I don't really want to lose a ton of the stuff I've worked on, and just
everyone thought they were watching a simple rookie debut, a feel-good story about a girl from Iowa stepping onto the biggest stage. They were completely wrong. What's actually unfolding is a ruthless corporate takeover disguised as a basketball season. While the mainstream media celebrated three-pointers and assist records, a seismic power shift was happening behind closed doors, one that has left the WNBA commissioner scrambling and the old guard of the league trembling. Caitlin Clark didn't just sign a contract to play point guard. She entered the league with enough leverage to shake the entire establishment to its core. The fallout is real and heads are starting to roll. It all began with the ink on one historic contract, the deal that rewrote the economy of women's sports overnight. When Clark signed that 8-year, $28 million deal with Nike, it wasn't just about sneakers, it was an insurance policy against the league itself. For decades, the WNBA controlled the narrative, dictated travel, salaries, and player power. This Nike deal changed everything. Clark will make more from Nike in a single year than most WNBA players earn in a lifetime. That made the rookie bigger than the brand she represents. Nike isn't paying for shoes, they're paying for the face of the future. Every threat to Clark on the court or in the boardroom instantly became a threat to Nike's bottom line. And even before the ink dried, the sharks were circling. Nike didn't just hand over that money, they had to win a battle to secure her. Reports surfaced that Adidas, Puma, and Under Armour threw everything they had at Clark's team during the pitch meetings. Steph Curry reportedly got involved with the Under Armour pitch, and the numbers being thrown around were staggering. Nike knew losing her was not an option. They saw the data, the jersey sales, the undeniable pull she had. Securing Clark mattered more than landing entire NBA teams. By winning that bidding war, Nike effectively became her primary employer, while the Indiana Fever and the WNBA became secondary. This created tension the league was utterly unprepared for. What happens when the employee holds more power than the boss? Naturally, stepping into a competitive environment with that kind of backing paints a massive target on your back. The jealousy narrative wasn't just a rumor. It played out in 4K for the world to see, starting before the season even tipped off. Legends of the game, players who built the league from scratch, began taking subtle and not so subtle shots at the newcomer. Cheryl Swoops, a living icon, questioned Clark's records, implying her success was circumstantial. Whether intended as analysis or pure resentment, the tone was set. You haven't earned it yet. But the fans didn't care. They came to see Clark, and that reality only fanned the flames. Once games began, the tension spilled onto the court. Hard fouls, cheap shots, and welcome to the pros moments that felt more like a physical crackdown than honest defense. The Kennedy Carter incident ignited the fire. A hip check that floored Clark away from the ball, followed by Carter celebrating it, sending shockwaves through the fan base. And it wasn't just Carter. Angel Reese and others were caught in physical altercations that looked distinctly personal. Veterans who had been grinding for years for a fraction of the pay were suddenly watching a 22-year-old arrive with a private security detail and the keys to the kingdom. The physical targeting escalated, and what should have been competition began to look like a coordinated effort to break the rookie's spirit. That's when the cracks in leadership became impossible to ignore. While Clark was getting hammered on the court, the one person tasked with protecting the integrity of the league vanished. Commissioner Kathy Engelbert stayed eerily silent. In any other major league, NBA, NFL, MLB, if the Golden Goose is getting hunted, the front office steps in immediately. Target LeBron James or Patrick Mahomes with off-ball violence, and there'd be suspensions, fines, and press conferences in hours. Here, silence. That silence fueled speculation that the league was okay with it, that maybe the drama boosted ratings. A classic case of short-term buzz prioritized over long-term stability. The vacuum left by inaction was quickly filled by the media, and suddenly the story wasn't basketball anymore. It was about race, privilege, and bullying. Shows like The View, First Take, and The Pat McAfee Show debated the league's ethics daily, giving the WNBA more coverage than ever, but for all the wrong reasons. The league was painted as a playground for bullies who couldn't handle a new star. Through it all, Engelbert refused to seize control, letting the hazing continue unchecked, turning the WNBA brand toxic for millions of new fans tuning in for the first time. They weren't seeing tough defense, they were seeing a gang up, and viewers were turning off in disgust. The controversy didn't stop with hard fouls. The Olympic snub was another devastating blow. When Team USA's roster left Clark off, it was defended as a basketball decision based on experience, but to Nike executives and casual fans it looked like pure gatekeeping. The most popular female athlete on the planet, healthy and ready, was told no thanks. It cemented the perception that the WNBA was insular, cliquey, and resistant to the change Clark embodied, a massive marketing misstep. Millions in potential promotion evaporated, and again the commissioner's office seemed powerless or unwilling to intervene. Then the dam finally broke. Months of tension, on-court attacks, media battles, and silence erupted when Engelbert went on CNBC, likely expecting a soft interview about league growth, only to be pressed on the dark side, racist, misogynistic, and toxic rhetoric spreading among fan bases online. This was her chance to lead, to declare, "We do not tolerate hate." She failed spectacularly. Instead of condemning the toxicity, she stumbled into a business answer, comparing the situation to the Magic Johnson-Larry Bird rivalry of the '80s, claiming rivalry drives viewership. It was a catastrophic misread, equating modern cyberbullying and racially charged harassment to a classic sports rivalry. She essentially told players their hate speech was marketing gold, monetizing their pain live on TV. The clip exploded online, and the backlash was immediate and ruthless. But this wasn't just Twitter outrage, it came from inside the league. The WNBPA didn't just disagree, they struck hard. Terry Jackson, the union's executive director, released a blistering statement, accusing the commissioner of failing to protect player dignity and safety, explicitly stating hate speech is not a marketing strategy. This wasn't debate, it was a vote of no confidence. In any corporate world, when your workforce publicly shames you for moral failure, it's usually the beginning of the end. Engelbert was effectively cancelled by her own league. Players like Breanna Stewart, usually reserved, spoke up. Locker rooms turned against the front office, signaling they wouldn't let leadership profit from toxicity while they bore the harassment. Engelbert tried to clarify later, but the damage was done, trust shattered. Calls for her resignation moved from fan threads to respected sports columns. And looming over all of it is Nike. Remember the $28 million investment? They didn't drop that money to watch Clark get targeted on the court or dragged into toxic culture wars by incompetent leadership. Rumors swirl that the pressure isn't just from players. It's coming from sponsors demanding the WNBA clean up its act. Nike needs Clark to be a flawless, heroic figure and the league to be a professional, safe stage. They have leverage, decades of experience manufacturing stars and protecting assets. Do you think they'll let a commissioner jeopardize a $250 million projection for Clark? Absolutely not. High-level conversations are reportedly delivering an ultimatum. Clean up the game, stop the cheap shots, control the PR, or watch support falter. In effect, Nike is now shaping league decisions. Clark's brand is strong enough to force change. And it's not just her shoes. She's driven a $2.2 billion media rights deal over 11 years, transforming the league's financial reality. Games that once drew 300,000 viewers now pull 2 million. Arenas are expanding to NBA-size venues, and Clark is the engine behind it all. The commissioner's job was to manage this transition. She fumbled it. When you mishandle a $2.2 billion opportunity, keeping your seat becomes nearly impossible. And then there's the looming threat of unrivaled.
This new 3-on-3 league. founded by WNBA stars Breanna Stewart and Nafisa Collier, set to run in the off-season, is offering massive salaries and equity to players, and that changes everything. Why it matters? It gives players leverage. If the WNBA remains toxic and mismanaged, top talent now has another place to go, another way to cash in. And guess who they are aggressively recruiting? Caitlin Clark. If she pivots to a different venture or takes her star power elsewhere, the league loses its golden ticket. The commissioner knows this, and the panic behind the scenes is real. Look at the locker room dynamics. The old guard, the Dianas, the Cheryls are watching their influence erode in real time. For 20 years, they controlled a gritty, underground culture. Now it's mainstream, corporate, high visibility, and they're not the ones on the billboards. Friction was inevitable, but the commissioner's job was to bridge the gap, celebrate the legends, and usher in a new era. Instead, she let both sides clash, pitting veterans against rookies and making everyone look bad. The charter flight saga is another example of Clark forcing the league's hand. Players had long complained about flying commercial, squeezed in coach seats, delayed flights. The league said it was too expensive. Then Clark arrives, and suddenly security concerns make her standing in a TSA line a nightmare. Nike and Clark's team pushed for better safety. Overnight, the league found money for a charter program. Veterans were thrilled to have it, but resentment brewed that it took a rookie to make it happen, proving the league always had the capacity. They just didn't care until their new cash cow was at risk. Now, the commissioner is technically in charge, but only in name. She has lost the confidence of players, fans, and sponsors. The WNBA is calling louder for new leadership, someone who understands modern media, protects players from abuse, and doesn't profit from toxicity. The CNBC fallout still reverberates. A public revolt from your own union is lethal in pro sports. Adam Silver works for owners and players. Engelbert seems to work for no one but the algorithm. Owners are likely quietly seeking a successor, someone who can handle the Nike era, a wartime general, not a bureaucrat. Clark, for her part, keeps her head down. She doesn't call for firings, doesn't engage in Twitter wars. She just plays. And that silence is her power move. Her value speaks louder than words. Agents, sponsors, networks do the talking. She is the sun the league now revolves around. If the commissioner can't handle the heat, she will burn. Looking ahead, the WNBA landscape is unrecognizable. Expansion teams in Golden State, Portland, Toronto, all fueled by Clark's hype. Player salaries finally creeping up, a league finally profitable. But the cost of rapid expansion exposed deep structural rot in leadership. The Caitlin Clark takeover wasn't about stats. It was about exposing an amateur administration running a major league business. The commissioner's cancellation is a warning. This game has changed. Managing the WNBA is now running a global entertainment product with billion-dollar stakes. The days of flying under the radar, ignoring player safety, or treating the league like charity are over. Caitlin Clark killed the old WNBA. Now, everyone, including the commissioner, is scrambling to survive in the new one. This story is about power, who has it, who wants it, and what happens when it shifts too fast. Veterans had tenure, the commissioner had office authority, but Clark brought the power of the people and Nike. In capitalism, money always wins. The jealousy was just growing pains of a league realizing it no longer controlled its own destiny. Hard fouls were the dying gasps of a fading culture. The commissioner's downfall? Collateral damage of a